So, what exactly is strategic foresight? Let's break it down together. At its heart, strategic foresight isn't about predicting the future. It's about developing what we call a forward view. Think of it as a high-quality, coherent understanding of potential futures that your organization can actually use. This isn't just some academic exercise. When done right, this forward view helps you detect problems before they become crises, guides your policy decisions, shapes your strategy, and even helps you explore new markets and services. What makes strategic foresight so powerful is that it marries futures thinking with strategic management. Instead of just reacting to whatever the world throws at you, you're positioning yourself to actively shape your future. You may be wondering, isn't this just forecasting with a fancier name? Great question, and the answer is definitely no. Strategic foresight encompasses forecasting as one of its tools, but goes far beyond it. Think of forecasting as just one instrument in an entire orchestra of future thinking methodologies. While forecasting gives us single-point predictions based on historical trends, strategic foresight builds entire worlds of possibility, helping us navigate uncertainty rather than just trying to eliminate it. It's the difference between looking at a weather report versus understanding climate patterns and preparing for multiple scenarios that might unfold in your region over the next decade. Forecasting is what meteorologists do when they tell you there's a 70% chance of rain tomorrow. It's about predicting a single outcome based on historical data and quantitative analysis. It tries to tell you what will happen. It's like when you check your weather app before heading out, you're looking for that one specific prediction to plan your day around. Think about how you use forecasts in your everyday life. When you're deciding whether to bring an umbrella, you want a clear yes or no. These predictions feel comforting because they offer certainty in an uncertain world. But here's where things get tricky for you and me. Forecasting assumes patterns will continue predictably. It's a bit like driving while only looking in the rearview mirror. You might stay on course for a while if the road remains straight, but what happens when there's a sudden curve or obstacle ahead? That's where most forecasting methods break down, leaving you vulnerable to surprises and disruptions that weren't part of the historical data. For example, a financial analyst might forecast next quarter's sales based on the previous 8 quarters' data, meticulously plotting each trend line and seasonal fluctuation as if the future will neatly follow these established patterns. You've probably seen this in action. Those confident projections in boardrooms or market reports that declare with certainty that sales will increase by 7.2% next quarter. Or consider how an economist might forecast GDP growth by extrapolating current economic indicators, feeding numbers into sophisticated models that generate precise-looking predictions about where the economy is heading. But here's the problem that affects all of us. Forecasting assumes that the future will follow the same patterns as the past. It's like planning your entire cross-country road trip based solely on the first 10 miles of highway. This approach might work fine during periods of stability, but what happens when disruptive technologies emerge, consumer behaviors shift dramatically, or global crises strike without warning? And in our volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, where change accelerates daily and unpredictable events seem to be the new normal, that assumption isn't just slightly off, it's increasingly dangerous for you, your organization, and society as a whole. Strategic foresight, on the other hand, embraces ambiguity and complexity. Instead of trying to predict a single outcome, it explores multiple plausible futures, the possible, the probable, and even the preferred. Foresight asks, what could happen and how can we prepare for it? It's like having several different maps for different terrains rather than betting everything on a single route. Let me give you a real-world example. Back in the early 2000s, Royal Dutch Shell didn't just forecast oil prices. They used strategic foresight to explore multiple scenarios, including one where renewable energy would significantly disrupt their business model. This didn't just predict disruption, it helped them prepare for it by diversifying their energy portfolio before many competitors. So why is this distinction so important? Because in today's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, traditional planning approaches are increasingly falling short. V. Volatile. Change happens rapidly and unpredictably. U. Uncertain. The future cannot be forecasted with precision. C. Complex. Many interconnected factors affect outcomes. A. ambiguous. Cause and effect relationships are unclear. In this environment, strategic foresight isn't a luxury. It's a necessity for survival. Let me explain why, and trust me, you'll want to understand this if you're hoping to thrive in our rapidly evolving world. First, foresight helps you develop future-proof business models. When Netflix shifted from DVD rentals to streaming, they weren't just reacting to market changes. They had anticipated multiple possible futures and prepared accordingly. They imagined a world where broadband would become ubiquitous and content delivery would fundamentally transform. While Blockbuster was perfecting the video rental experience, Netflix was preparing for its obsolescence. This is the power of looking beyond the horizon. Second, it positions you to be proactive rather than reactive. Imagine driving a car while only looking in the rearview mirror. That's what running a business without foresight is like. You're navigating based solely on what's already happened, not what's ahead. Every pothole, every turn, every opportunity would catch you completely by surprise. Is that how you want to operate in today's breakneck business environment? Think about how many companies were blindsided by the pandemic. Those with robust foresight capabilities weren't predicting COVID specifically, but they had considered scenarios involving supply chain disruptions, remote work requirements, and digital transformation. When crisis struck, they already had playbooks ready to deploy. Third, foresight builds organizational resilience. By considering multiple futures, you develop strategies that can flex and adapt as circumstances change. Think of it as creating an immune system for your organization rather than a single suit of armor that might protect against one threat but leave you vulnerable to others. Your company becomes like a living organism, constantly sensing its environment, learning and evolving in response to new information. This adaptive capacity is what separates thriving organizations from those that become case studies in business failure. When you practice strategic foresight, you're essentially stress testing your organization against multiple possible futures. You're asking tough questions like, what if our core product becomes obsolete overnight? Or what if our main supplier goes bankrupt? Or what happens if a new technology completely disrupts our industry? By working through these scenarios before they happen, you build organizational muscles that can respond quickly when change arrives. And in today's world, change is the only constant you can count on. And here's something many people miss. Strategic foresight isn't just for corporations. It's incredibly valuable for public policy and addressing societal challenges. In fact, some of the most important applications of foresight happen outside the business world entirely. Think about the complex challenges we face as a society: climate change, technological disruption, demographic shifts, geopolitical tensions. These issues don't respect organizational boundaries, and they certainly don't come with simple single-point solutions. Beyond business. For policymakers, foresight offers a structured way to identify emerging issues and develop policies that work across a variety of potential futures. Consider climate change. Effective policies can't just assume a single trajectory, but must account for multiple possible scenarios and be robust enough to work across them. For governments tackling complex challenges like global politics, economic shifts, or technological advancement, foresight provides a methodology for developing resilient strategies. It helps ensure that decisions aren't based on unlikely scenarios or overly restricted thinking. When you're managing resources that affect millions of lives, you can't afford to be caught off guard by predictable surprises or blinded by outdated assumptions about how the world works. Let's look at a concrete example. A city government that uses strategic foresight to plan its transportation infrastructure. Instead of simply extrapolating current traffic patterns, they explore scenarios including increased remote work, autonomous vehicles, and climate migration. The resulting plan is much more adaptable to different possible futures than their previous approach. This means that when the pandemic hits and commuting patterns change dramatically overnight, they aren't stuck with billions invested in infrastructure designed for a reality that no longer exists. And this applies to your community too. Think about how your local government plans. Are they considering multiple futures or just extending trend lines? Are they building in flexibility or creating rigid systems that might become obsolete before they're even completed? These questions matter because they directly impact your daily life, from your commute to your housing options to the economic opportunities available in your region. Strategic foresight is a vital tool for building resilient organizations, communities, and societies. Look around you. The neighborhood where you walk your dog, the grocery store where you shop, the schools and hospitals you depend on, all face unprecedented challenges in our rapidly changing world. Without systematic approaches to anticipating change, they're essentially flying blind into the future that you and I will inhabit together. It's about having the humility to acknowledge uncertainty, coupled with the discipline to prepare for multiple possibilities. Remember that time you were absolutely certain about getting that promotion, only to watch the company restructure your entire department? Now imagine that same shock rippling through an entire city or corporation. The consequences of that blindsiding affect us all. From the highway expansion that sits empty while remote work booms to economic policies that leave your neighborhood vulnerable when the factory closes. When organizations and governments embrace strategic foresight, you'll see it in your daily life. The power grid that keeps your lights on during the hurricane, the community center designed to convert into emergency housing during crises, or the job training program that pivots quickly when automation transforms the local industry overnight. They're essentially saying, we can't predict exactly what's coming, but we can map the terrain of possibilities and prepare accordingly. As futurist Paul Sappho wisely put it, the goal of forecasting is not to predict the future, but to tell you what you need to know to take meaningful action in the present. His words capture the essence of what we're discussing today, friends. When you hear this quote, think about how it applies to your own life. Those moments when having just a bit more foresight would have changed your decisions entirely. That's exactly what strategic foresight aims to do. Not predict with certainty, but prepare with confidence. It's about equipping you, your community, and the institutions you rely on with the tools to navigate whatever comes next. Imagine standing at a crossroads with multiple maps instead of just one, each showing different potential journeys ahead. Wouldn't you feel more prepared, more capable of making choices that protect what matters to you? This is the gift that proper foresight work offers us all. Not crystal ball predictions, but a compass that works regardless of which path the future takes.